In America, they financed the Harrimans and railroads, the Vanderbilts and railroads and the press, and Carnegie in the steel industry, among many others. In fact, during World War I, J.P. Morgan was thought to be the richest man in America. But after his death, it was discovered that he was actually only a lieutenant of the Rothschilds. Legalization of the Bank of England amounted to nothing less than legal counterfeiting of a national currency for private gain. Unfortunately, nearly every nation now has a privately controlled central bank.
That's what the average person don't understand. The system of money, religion, and military has from day one, as far back as you can trace, controlled everybody and everything in the world. That is why you find Masonic symbols in almost all major corporations. Television programs, internet services. The Masons are the angels of the bloodline of God, and just like the followers of their religions, at the bottom they have no ideal. They run their charities and help the people, but at the top, almost every secret society in the world can be traced to a bloodline member of the descendants of God. And at the bottom, if you do good by them, you can move up. You can get invited into separate societies like the Bilderbergs, Rose Cross Order, etc., etc. Members think they are at the top of some elite group, when in reality, they have been separated for the purpose of keeping secret the position in society that they are going to be used for to maintain the control of the bloodline of God.
The Masons are very secretive. When they approach a man to be a member of their organization, they will not and cannot tell him what it's all about. But what they can do is to say, well, you see, there were all these famous people. They were Freemasons, and they can name off the kings, and today, of course, they can name off Washington. And so the candidate would then argue to himself, well, who am I? I'm just a little guy, you know, or I might be a senator, but nevertheless, who am I? Compared with these, if it was good enough for them, surely it's good enough for me. If it's secret, it's going to be a good thing. So they get in, and they're not told the whole story. They're not told in the first, second, or even third degree. They're not told the whole story, but little by little, as they acquire more knowledge, and as they are deemed to be faithful to the cause, they are told more. And that's just how they get the people in.
This bloodline funded both sides of the takeover of America, and it was easy because they were trusted. On both sides, they thought Massaw was a descendant of Poseidon, and they knew the time they were coming because they told them. They told the Aztecs that you will know it is your God because we will be in possession of this cross, something they always seem to conveniently leave out on their television programs. And when it was shown to them, most of these people laid down and died for their God without even putting up a fight.
On Easter Saturday 1519, a magnificent embassy arrived from the ruler of Mexico. And even more strange, they seemed to have been expecting Cortez.
Marina, find out who honors us in this royal manner.
Yes, my lord.
The name of the Aztec ruler was Montezuma. But Montezuma was haunted by a prophecy, a legend of an exiled god who one day would return to claim his throne. So the Aztec spies urgently looked for signs. The stranger's white food, was it food of the gods? Their pale faces, could they be divine? It sounds incredible, and it probably sounded incredible to the Spanish. But the Aztec gods were more like the gods of the ancient Greeks, capricious, willful, mercurial, cruel. And the most enigmatic of them all was Quetzalcoatl. And according to the legend, he promised that one day he would return and regain his kingdom. But he'd come back across that sea out to the east, back here, with his chalky white face and his beard, in the Aztec year 1 read. And by an amazing chance, 52 to 1 chance, this was that year.
Of course, enigmatic means mysterious, and that's what they want you to believe. But in reality, there was nothing mysterious about any of this. The name Quetzalcoatl is Poseidon in the Aztec language, and the temples were dedicated to him because he had seeded their race. He gave them the knowledge to build them. He is depicted everywhere as the serpent, and Zeus, the eagle, the god of war, and the sun. In the Aztec language, Zeus is pronounced Huitzilopochtli, and he is the god you are told they are sacrificing to. The Spanish language can be traced back to the fourth language of the Aryan Sanskrit, and in it, the spelling of Jesus is pronounced Jesus.
To discover that the New World also had great civilizations with law, writing, and architecture, this was a revelation. What rational beings live here, wrote Cortez.
And on the other side,
before the white man came, they already knew that someday somebody will come around, a white man that take over their land and claim it.
after the establishment of the 13 original Masonic colonies, they tricked the people by making them think they could win a fight to become a great independent nation.
Masonry was in fact used as a built-in network, a secret network in which to foment the American Revolution.
The leader of the men who dressed up like Indians and threw the tea into Boston Harbor was the legendary Paul Revere, whose famous ride would alert Americans that the British were coming. Pictured here with a teapot commemorating his rebellion, Paul Revere was a prominent member of the Masonic Order. George Washington, known as the father of our country, along with many of his generals, were also Masons.
People do not understand that our revolution was the first in a series of revolutions that began in 1776 and extended right up until the Cuban Revolution in 1959 when Fidel Castro came to power. And this is a series of revolutions to transform the world.
Masonic philosopher Manly P. Hall wrote that not only were many American founders Masons, but they received aid from a secret and august body existing in Europe, which helped them to establish this country for a peculiar and particular purpose, known only to the initiated few. Hall further suggests that Benjamin Franklin was among those few.
He was, of course, an ambassador in Europe. He became a member of a group called the Hellfire Club, which was a kind of pseudo-satanic organization in 1700s. It was founded by an English nobleman named Francis Dashwood.
Sir Francis Dashwood was no ordinary drunken rake. He also happened to be a member of the British Parliament and was a close friend and advisor to King George III, the man the American colonists would rebel against. The Hellfire Club itself were made up of English nobility, some of whom held high offices in the King's government.
Hellfire Club, as a matter of fact, I used to live quite near that place. It's on the west side of London at a place called West Wickham. It's a hill. It's a chalk hill, now of course covered in grass, and on the top of that chalk hill is a church. On the top of the church there's a golden ball. There's a cross on top of that. Now that's a Christian church, but inside the hill is a cave. Often those chalk hills, they do have caves inside them. It's the way they're formed.